This organization is special. It means so much to so many people. It's a special place to work, too. Our staff...
In the heart of St. Louis, a storm is brewing unlike anything Cardinals fans have experienced in recent memory. What was once viewed as one of the most stable, respected, and quietly efficient franchises in Major League Baseball has suddenly become the epicenter of chaos, controversy, and internal conflict. The Cardinals organization, long admired for tradition and discipline, now finds itself pulled into a dramatic tug-of-war initiated by two of the most powerful voices within the franchise, President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom and manager Oliver Marmol, over the most polarizing question of the offseason. Should superstar third baseman Nolan Arenado be traded to the LA Angels as part of a sweeping organizational reset, or should he remain in St. Louis as the cornerstone of whatever future remains? This isn't just a discussion about roster construction. This isn't simply a matter of analytics or performance metrics. This is a philosophical war, a clash of identity, a defining moment that forces the Cardinals to choose between loyalty and logic, sentiment and strategy, stability and reconstruction. Around the country, baseball fans are glued to developments. Inside St. Louis, emotions are boiling over. Front office corridors whisper with tension. Players feel the uncertainty. Agents are circling. The city's media is aflame. And supporters who once believed nothing could shake the foundation of Cardinals baseball are now left wondering whether the franchise they love is on the brink of transformation or collapse. At the center of the storm stands Chaim Bloom, the calculated architect brought in to modernize and reshape the organization. To many, Bloom represents the new era of baseball, the era of analytics, asset valuation, long-term planning, and ruthless business decisions. To others, he represents disruption, unfamiliar philosophy, and concerning detachment from the emotional core of the franchise. Bloom sees Arenado not just as a player, but as an asset whose trade value may never again be this high despite his veteran status. He sees a Cardinals roster that has underperformed year after year, weighed down by aging contracts, inconsistent pitching, and a core that has failed to deliver deep October success. In his mind, emotional loyalty is not justification for stagnation. Winning requires sacrifice. Winning requires courage. Winning requires facing uncomfortable truths. And to Bloom, moving Arenado might be the bravest and most necessary move the Cardinals can make. Standing firmly in opposition is Oliver Marmol, the fiery skipper whose reputation has been shaped not just by strategy, but by passion, trust, connection, and belief in his players. Marmol does not see Nolan Arenado as a number on a spreadsheet. He sees a leader, a competitor, a presence in the clubhouse that cannot be replaced by prospects or theoretical upside. Arenado is not just a third baseman. He is a symbol, a warrior who takes the field every day with relentless intensity and unwavering dedication. Marmol believes trading Arenado isn't just a roster move. It's a surrender. It's a signal to the team that the organization is giving up on competing. It's a message to fans that loyalty is disposable. It's the destruction of an identity he has desperately worked to preserve. And so, within the walls of Busch Stadium, a quiet war is underway. Reports suggest heated meetings, firm disagreements, and tense discussions that stretch late into the night. Neither Bloom nor Marmol is backing down. Each believes they are fighting for the soul of the franchise. Each believes their vision is the one that can restore St. Louis to greatness. Meanwhile, fans are divided. Social media debates rage endlessly. Some argue that Arenado, beloved as he is, has seen a decline in consistency and playoff impact, making this the right time to pivot toward youth and flexibility. Others insist that removing Arenado would rip the emotional heart out of the club and drive the team deeper into irrelevance. Cardinals Nation finds itself fractured, struggling to reconcile their love for Arenado with the possibility that the franchise may benefit more from letting him go than keeping him. But this drama doesn't exist within a vacuum. Looming behind the immediate decision are years of questionable front office moves, puzzling roster construction, and missed opportunities. The Cardinals, who once stood as annual contenders, gradually slipped into mediocrity. Acquisitions failed to deliver. Young talent did not develop at the expected trajectory. Seasons ended earlier than they should have. Frustration quietly simmered. And now, those years of frustration are manifesting in one defining moment. The Los Angeles Angels stand as the opportunistic suitor waiting on the sidelines, ready to swoop in should the Cardinals fracture completely. The Angels have long sought stability, star power, and a cornerstone player capable of redefining the franchise after years of disappointment surrounding Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout's injuries, and chronic underachievement. To them, Nolan Arenado represents credibility. He represents marketing power. He represents competitive legitimacy. And they are prepared to pay, to trade, to restructure their own roster in order to secure the star that could change everything. But the Angels' interest only fuels the internal fire. For Bloom, it strengthens the argument. If another franchise believes Arenado is the missing championship piece, they are likely willing to surrender premium assets, top prospects, young arms, future stars, the very tools Bloom needs to rebuild. For Marmol, it deepens the horror. It reinforces how valuable Arenado is, not just to St. Louis, but to baseball at large. If the Angels see him as a franchise changer, why shouldn't the Cardinals? Inside dugouts and locker rooms, Arenado himself is left in limbo. His pride, competitiveness, and identity are intertwined deeply with the Cardinals. He came to St. Louis for one reason: to win. To bring championships back to a city that lives and breathes baseball, to be part of something historic. Now he watches uncertainty unfold around him. Rumors circulate. Opinions fly. People debate his worth, his future, his loyalty, his trajectory. For a player of Arenado's dedication, such uncertainty weighs heavily. And it doesn't stop there. Because whether Arenado stays or goes, the decision will ripple across the organization. Young players will see the direction the franchise is choosing. Veterans will question their stability. Prospects will measure their value. And management will either emerge united or fractured. If Bloom wins, his authority is cemented. The Cardinals embrace a new era of rebuild-focused decision-making. If Marmol wins, tradition triumphs, veterans remain prioritized, and the organization stays committed to competing immediately rather than restructuring. Meanwhile, every phone call between front offices is monitored. Every whisper inside baseball circles spreads quickly. Analysts weigh in on television. Writers publish speculative breakdowns. Fan forums explode with theories. The longer the situation drags, the more volatile it becomes. Because in sports, uncertainty breeds chaos. And right now, chaos is tightening its grip on St. Louis. Beyond the emotional theater, however, lies the unavoidable truth. Baseball is no longer a sport where history alone sustains relevance. Franchises must evolve. They must reassess. They must be willing to rebuild when necessary. But rebuilding is not guaranteed success. Trading a superstar does not guarantee improvement. Prospects do not guarantee championships. For every team that has risen through bold decisions, others have collapsed through reckless ones. That is the risk Bloom faces. That is the fear fueling Marmol's resistance. So the Cardinals stand at a crossroads. One road leads into the unknown, filled with promise but laced with uncertainty. The other leads into familiarity, comfortable yet shadowed by stagnation. Fans watch, waiting for clarity. Players prepare, unsure what version of the Cardinals they will return to. And throughout baseball, organizations monitor closely, knowing that whatever St. Louis decides will reverberate throughout the league. In many ways, this is bigger than baseball. It is a reflection of leadership, philosophy, courage, and conviction. It's a reminder that greatness requires decisions not everyone will understand. It's proof that even storied franchises face identity crises. And it's evidence that sometimes the most defining moments come not in October under bright lights, but in off-season conference rooms filled with difficult conversations. Yet one thing remains undeniable. No matter what happens next, the St. Louis Cardinals will never be the same. If they trade Arenado, they embrace transformation and sacrifice legacy stability. If they keep him, they commit to the present while risking future stagnation. Either direction will reshape the franchise, its culture, its trajectory, and its connection to fans. So as rumors intensify, arguments grow louder, and negotiations tighten, the baseball world watches, waiting, wondering, imagining what headlines are coming next. Because whatever happens, one reality is certain. This isn't simply a trade discussion. This is a revolution in slow motion. This is baseball politics at its highest level. This is a franchise fighting to define what it stands for. And when the dust finally settles, when decisions are finalized, when Arenado either packs his bags for Los Angeles or remains in St. Louis wearing the iconic birds on the bat, history will judge everyone involved. Bloom will be remembered as either the visionary who rebuilt the Cardinals into a powerhouse or the executive who dismantled their heart with nothing to show for it. Marmol will either be seen as the emotional leader who preserved loyalty or the stubborn voice who resisted inevitable evolution. Arenado will either go down as the warrior who remained loyal despite chaos or the superstar who began a new chapter elsewhere. But one thing is certain, this is only the beginning. The coming weeks will shape the future of St. Louis Cardinals baseball. Front office strategies will be revealed. Philosophies will be exposed. Pressure will mount. Emotion will intensify. And history will unfold right before our eyes. Because this isn't just another off-season storyline. This is a defining chapter in franchise history, one that fans will remember, one that analysts will revisit, one that shapes everything that comes next. So brace yourselves, because if you think this saga is already dramatic, if you think the arguments are already heated, if you think the tension is already at its breaking point, the real story hasn't even begun yet. As developments continue, as negotiations evolve, as voices grow louder and decisions inch closer, all we can do is watch. Watch as a legendary franchise confronts its hardest truth. Watch as internal leaders clash. Watch as one of baseball's brightest stars waits to see whether loyalty or business prevails. Watch as the Cardinals face their reckoning. Because St. Louis is no longer just another baseball city in the offseason. Right now, St. Louis is the center of the baseball universe. And every eye in the sport is locked on what happens next.